Good afternoon, everyone. I am Kallinikos. I will be your teacher for today, and I think we'll give everyone just another minute or two to straggle in. And again, thank you all so much for attending the class.
Hello, I'm Serafina. I'm the teacher's assistant for the class.
Yes.
So I do need to make, I do need to read a statement before we start. So just
Okay.
let me know whenever you're ready, so that
All right. Like I said, we'll give everyone another moment or two, and then we can read the disclaimer and get into the fun stuff.
how did you pronounce your name again?
Sorry, say again.
Pronounce your name. How did you pronounce your name again?
Kallinikos.
Okay, I something I've not seen before. So
It's okay. It is Byzantine Greek. I don't expect anybody to say it. I probably don't say it right either, so it's okay.
it's your name. You pronounce it however you want to.
All right, I think we are good to get started. Serafina?
All right. So let's see here. Welcome to Huaphua, a virtual New World Symposium hosted by the Barony of Marinus in Atlantia. Our next class will be Aztec Heraldry, taught by Baron Kallinikos.
It's just Lord Kallinikos Gavras.
Lord, okay, Lord, I just promoted you apparently.
I'll take the promotion.
Unfortunately, I can't give it to you in the middle. So, my name is Serafina, and I'll be the teaching assistant for this class period. The class will be recorded and uploaded to the Barony of Marinus YouTube channel. If you do not wish for your image to be recorded, please turn off your camera now. In order to provide the best experience to all students, please mute your microphones unless asked to unmute by the instructor or the teaching assistant. By joining this class, you have agreed to respect the Society's bullying and harassment policy as well as the Marinus inclusivity policy. I have added these policies to the chat for you to review. Failure to respect the policies may lead to removal from the class. I will also be posting in the chat box a Google form where you can let us know who attended this class and where you're from in the known world. This should help. This should take less than 5 minutes and helps our staff greatly in developing class schedules and recruiting instructors for the next event. Thank you for joining the class. If you want, I can monitor chat for you for questions.
Oh yeah, yes, please.
And did you want? Do you have like break periods that you would like to wait for questions, or just ask as soon as somebody?
So yes, so the class will be in two sections, one on heraldry and one on naming conventions, and I'll have a question period after each one.
Okay. All right. You're more than welcome to start. Thank
All
you very
right,
much.
well, in that case, let's get started. So yes, hello, my name is Lord Kallinikos Gavras, mundanely known as Nick Holsey Lopez, and again, thank you all for coming. That should make. All right, so before we get started, a couple caveats to make. First of all, I'm not an expert on Aztec or Mexica culture. I am not a anthropologist or a linguist. This is purely something I've done out of as a personal project, and I'll get more into that later. So any mistakes are mine, and I do apologize for it. And second of all, anything that we have to deal with when we're discussing Mesoamerica is we have to blame the Spanish. Because of the Spanish conquest, because of Hernan Cortez, we've lost a lot of records. A lot of culture was destroyed. There was a lack of continuation. So sadly, we do not know anywhere near as much as we wish we did. And of course, it is all this guy's fault. I assume you all know that, but just as a nice reminder. So this is what I did for as far as heraldry went. I went through 16 Aztec codices. They have them all listed below, and I went through them and I screen capped every single chimali that I saw. Chimali being the Nahuatl award for shield. And then I analyzed it based on its color, its patterning, general design. And this was just very much me spending many hours going through them, taking screen caps, and making notes. Actually, before I get started, if anybody wants to look through my notes as I'm going through them, Serafina, what is the easiest way for me to share a link while I'm already, sharing my screen? Oh, here we go.
If it's in a Google Doc, you could probably just share a link.
Yeah, I was just trying to find the share button in Zoom. There you go. There's the link. So we have a few things to start with, but hopefully you find it useful. Okay, so as I was saying, I spent many nights going through these codices, taking screen caps, looking up information on them independently. It's definitely been a labor of love. So I've been using the word chimali. What is a chimali? So chimali is just the Nahuatl award for shield. They were usually about 20 to 30 inches wide. They were usually made of either wood or hardened reed rods that had been sewn together, and which apparently was considered quite sturdy. The Spanish said that only a direct crossbow hit could even get through them. Even a sword didn't do much. And of course, since most Mesoamerican armies were using flint tipped weapons, they were actually considered pretty good for defending against flint, even. So, as I said, they were usually rods that were sewn together and they were covered with leather or fur or feathers. Sometimes you see precious stones or other materials. And some, as you can see in the picture down here, had a tentla piloyo. And again, I do not speak Nahuatl. I barely speak Spanish. So um, I'm sure some of you could probably pronounce that better than I could. But that was a long feather fringe. It's thought to have probably protected the legs and possibly deflected missiles, though I don't think a lot of people have gotten out there with a shield and let people shoot at them. So, we do have some questions. Now, most of the ones you see are round, but there were square shields. There were ones that were collapsible, even. So, even though most you will see in my presentation are round, that is just most of them. It is not a hard and fast rule by any means. And again, said cultural destruction. There are only 4 existing chimali that have survived. I believe only one of them is currently in Mexico. I think that is the one right here. And so we only have a few artifacts existing to go off of, and there they are for you to see. Or I assume those are replicas of them, but still. So as you saw in the chimalis up here, they have often very beautiful designs on them. What do those designs mean? That is a good place to start, I figured. So the meaning of the designs, we've extrapolated from existing sources. We know that several of them were considered spoils or tribute of war, that tribes that had been conquered by the Mexica Aztecs would give a certain number of chimali as tribute, along with other craft goods, food, etc. Um, we believe that some of them were somewhat like regimental insignias. People from the same town or same neighborhood would fight in a unit, and they would all have the same design, so you could see who it was on the battlefield. There's a loose correlation as an Aztec warrior as he got captives in battle, as he captured other soldiers, they went up in rank, and there is believed to be at least some correlation between design and rank. And there is one example of the one with the water monster on it, which I actually forgot to put in my notes how to pronounce. There is one example that was specifically referencing the name of a noble who used it. So, and also just to say, these are also probably more display pieces than ones that were used on the battlefield. That is what is most likely to have survived. I think that should, I think that makes a lot of sense. And just to show off some more designs, these are from the Codex Mendoza. and you can see different outfits that warriors were given as they captured more combatants, and some of the shields they might have gotten as they got promoted. So let's talk design. This is what I'm here for, of course. After going through about 200 Shimali, color-wise, they seem to use most of the same colors that we see in European heraldry. And for any of you non-heralds, I do apologize if a bit of lingo slips in. So we don't see any purple in the codices. We do see gold, silver, blue, green, red, and black, and we do see a bit of pink, usually in conjunction with red. Though, as I will say, for all of this, it is limited by the artists making the illustrations and by what inks and what resources they had. So none of this should be treated as 100% definitive. For instance, as far as purple goes, we know that purple plumes were a prestigious rank marker in Aztec society, so just something to keep in mind. So we only rarely see dark colors on dark colors, which is for a basic rule of heraldry is not to put a light color, which is white or gold, together, or to put a dark color, which is everything else, together. We very rarely see dark colors, and that's only in one certain shield type. I mean, mostly. Though gold and silver seems to be a rather common combination. Though again, as we are going off of the manuscripts, there is of course the artistic license to be taken in mind. Now, one thing that I noticed is almost every shield has a border on it. Uh, it almost without fail. There's always a border. It is always a different color from the rest of the shield, and this is probably just a practical part of shield design, especially since the edge might be taking a lot of blows. You need it thick, defined. Often, it looks like it would be covered in feathers or other protective material. Um, One other difference from European heraldry and European design more generally is there isn't a lot of mix and matching of designs. European heraldry can be sort of cut and paste. You like a lion, you put it on your shield. You like you want to have a chevron, you put on a chevron. um, you cut your shield in half to marshal it with your spouses. We don't see a lot of design elements being mixed and matched in Aztec shield designs. They seem pretty tied to certain patterns only. So here are some examples. Here are the pretty pictures from the various codices. Some of the most common ones we see the Shikal Koliqui, which was based on braided gourd vines and is an extremely common motif. We see the Iwitateos, which were down balls that were put on the shield. So probably not just artistic, probably literally part of it. Down here we have the symbol for jade, which is I've seen called the cross of Quetzalcoatl, and which I've described in heraldic terms as a pierced saltire ploye. A very common one we see here and is we see two or three crescents, another one above, and a bent fess going down the middle. This is probably the second most common design I've seen actually. We see this one that looks like piano keys. I've described it as berry countercharged in heraldic terms. I've also seen it called piano key. And this one down here, which is a chevron with the scratches on the side, is another extremely common design. So one thing I wasn't sure about is whether or not glyphs actually show up in heraldry. They don't seem to be very common, but there are documented examples of an eagle's foot glyphs, water glyphs in a similar design to the three crescents, and this quite terrifying eagle's head, of course. All right, so obviously, I think to get a bit into why I've been doing all this work and why I put this together, I wanted to. Um, I think it is very easy in the SCA for people to come up with, Viking personas, Dutch personas, Japanese personas, and part of that is because there's a lot of work that has been done. People have gone through and they've cataloged a lot about those cultures and put it into terms that we can translate into the SCA. And I was curious to see what it would take to design an Aztec persona. My wife is from Mexico City, so there's a connection there, and I thought it'd be nice to help her make a Aztec secondary persona. And oh, there wasn't a lot out there. I posted a design in the SCA Facebook Heraldry group, and people thought it was very pretty, but nobody had an idea how to even really register Aztec designs. So that is sort of what set me off on this, and a couple hundred hours of cutting and pasting from online codices. So I want to take a moment and kind of compare what we know and what we've learned about Aztec designs to some other heraldic traditions that we do recognize in the SCA. Now, of course, European heraldry was strongly linked to family lineage. It was passed down. You know, they became synonymous with dynasties themselves. There is no strong evidence that I have seen of any sort of family lineage being tracked in Mexica Aztec culture. I haven't, obviously there aren't, the three lions that mean this one family. We don't have anything like that. But it is still a strong pictorial language with with concrete elements and rules and conventions that I think are pretty easy to extrapolate from the evidence we do have. In some ways, it seems somewhat more similar to an Arab rank, or sometimes you hear it called Mamluk heraldry, such as this lovely double bow I have below. And so, as far as that, these were often just given to one person and assigned to them. I think that is a bit more accurate, or a bit more, a bit more similar, rather. And we do also, of course, have Japanese mon, which were clan emblems, and I think that isn't dissimilar to the way that some shields seem to have been used by certain neighborhoods or regiments to show group cohesion. So I do think while there is nothing in Aztec design that I think would be a direct translation to European heraldry or Japanese mons, I do think we can make comparisons. I do think we can sort of find I think that we can find that what we're already doing in the SCA can be translated to Aztec designs with obviously a bit of fudging to make it work within the core rules possible. Okay, that is my part so far on heraldry and shield designs. I will open it up for questions. Questions.
Somebody asked in chat, did your wife submit a device?
I'm sorry, what?
Somebody asked, did your wife submit their heraldry?
No, we haven't submitted anything for her yet. I haven't actually registered anything since going down this rabbit hole. There are some designs that she likes, but nothing that we have been ready to put through the SCA registration process.
So I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I have been holding off on. So I'm Tenoch for the record, just because I didn't introduce myself.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
So I've been holding off on. Oh, nice to meet you too. I've been holding off on submitting my own device because I wanted, which essentially, now that we've discussed it, basically I wanted a glyph on mine, and I wasn't able to convince any of the heralds that would be kosher. Because essentially I wanted a glyph that would be representative of my name.
Okay.
Which is not, I mean, like seeing some of the glyphs here, I can see that actually there's like pretty substantial evidence for that kind of stuff. It's just like I didn't know how to approach it. So that's my question: is how would I approach something like that as far as putting together documentation for the argument?
Yeah. So when it comes to heraldry, if you're doing something outside of what is called core European style, you need to do what's called an individually attested pattern. And to do that, you need to show 3 examples of something that breaks the rule or fits the design you're going for. So for instance, if I wanted to put a black charge on a red background, I would have to find 3 examples of that out in the wild from before the 1600s. So what I would do, if I was putting together an IAP for a glyph, I would find, I would go through and find examples of glyphs in Aztec Chimali designs, and I mean, I have 3 right here, to be honest. Though the water glyph, I think, would probably want a bit more to go off of because it's both a glyph and a design of its own. But there's other glyphs I think I could show. So I would say, look, eagles' heads were shown in, I think the in like, well, in some codex, it's in the notes. We have an eagle's foot design. We have water glyphs. I think there's a few more I could look for and say, if these are all used as glyphs, there's a pattern of this. So therefore, for me using a glyph that represents Tenoch, it shouldn't be that different from what we've already done. And as actually as Ocelotl, I've seen your name show up in heraldry chats too. You've done a Aztec based IAP before, so it can be done. There's precedent. We just need 3 examples, and I could probably find you 5 or 6.
Excellent. Yeah, I was gonna say, kind of based on the chat and what Aslot's saying, that like that's like a pretty common thing in a lot of codices where you see these glyphs that represent people's names, and that's like, and then like you have the represented right there on the Chimali, so you can see that that's fair use. But I remember when I was talking to people about submitting my own, like basically my name, the Tenochca Quicat, submitting the glyph for that as my device. I had a lot of resistance as far as trying to find ways to make it more European. So I do appreciate the examples and talking me through that process. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh, and I also want to say what I think would be your best piece of evidence is the one right here. I'm looking up on my other monitor, the Ahuizotl, which was the. Thank you.
Actually, because it's a
okay.
Z makes an S sound. So.
I'd say, sorry, I'm going to interrupt because I'm also a herald.
Yeah.
I would say submit, get your documentation and submit it, because while Heraldry Chat is a great resource, they aren't the ones ultimately making the decision, and the person who makes the decision isn't on Heraldry Chat, isn't even on Facebook.
Really?
Yeah. So get your documentation, submit it. The worst thing they could say is no.
Yeah, and also if you reach out to me on Facebook or otherwise, I could probably, or even if you just want to look through the notes, could probably, with half an hour's worth of work, give you all the sources you need, page number, codex, link, etc. Just because I've already done all this work, somebody might as well benefit from it.
Thank you very much.
Sure, no problem. Any other questions? All right, we will move on. All right, so this is the part where I'm probably going to get myself in a bit of trouble pronunciation-wise. So since I had done all this work on coming up with heraldic designs and going through all the Chimali, I decided I might as. So there isn't a large officially sanctioned list of Nahuatl names that I've seen anywhere. I found them for lots of other languages. When I was coming up with a Byzantine Greek persona, I just found a PDF with like 800 names in it. That just isn't something that seems to exist in the SCA. So here I am. Some background on Nahuatl. It was the main language of the Aztec Empire. It is part of the Uto Aztecan family, which stretches all the way up from the Hopi in New Mexico down to Mexico City. It is related to Hopi and Ut, and still has 1.7. Okay, that should say 1.7 million. This is what I get for doing everything at last minute. But it still has 1.7 million native speakers, mostly in Mexico. And one thing that is important to mention for our purposes, as far as names go, Nahuatl is genderless. There's no verb cases. There's no word endings. The only way to specify something as being male or female is to put the word woman into it, at least from what I've been able to see. And here are some basic pronunciation tips. I won't get you speaking like a natural, but it will at least let you figure out how to get a reasonably accurate way to say something. The X usually makes more of a SH sound, though. Tenoch, how exactly did you say it should be in the word?
Which word? The
Uh,
X?
yeah. How exactly did you pronounce it when we were talking about the? Oh, sorry, that was Z. Never mind.
That was Z. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. X is like a soft sh sound. Uh, C is is either a k before a, o, or u, and soft before e or I, which I believe is pretty common in Spanish pronunciation. You'll see a lot of cu, which makes a qua, like in queen, and well, hu makes a w, like way. So so t. Um, so that's one that I think that is one that trips up a lot of English speakers. Now, I've heard that it was pronounced a little bit differently in period, but the easiest way to say it is like you'd say the end of little or Atlanta. TL is something we have in English. We just don't really think about it. So, like Tlatoani, just say tl, like you would, Atlanta. You see a TZ, which is a ts, like cats. Um, the Z, so I heard it makes a s sound, but to know you were saying it's more like.
No, you're saying it right. I said
Okay.
it wrong. I said it
Oh,
with the
okay.
Z sound, and I corrected myself. That
Okay.
was my mistake.
Sorry. Okay. And all other
No,
sounds
you have it
just.
right.
Okay. Cool. So all other sounds you can just say with an English pronunciation, and you should be fine. Okay, so when it comes to names, the main source that I've been going off is the 1544 Morelos census. So it was 23 years after the invasion, which was kind of an interesting estuary point in Mexico, because that, by then Spanish rule had been well and truly cemented, but people hadn't really let go of all of their more traditional ways before. So of the census, 3 books survive detailing towns near modern day Cuernavaca. This has 134 male names, 35 female names, and 30 names of which the gender isn't known, which we think were most likely children, but not all of them. And below is the Palace of Cortez in Cuernavaca, just to give you something pretty to look at. All right, so here are the different categories of names that I have found. There were day names, which I'll go into more detail about. There are certain names that seem to be terms for children. Names could be poetic, they could be more nature based. Some of them were sardonic or even insulting. A lot of them, of course, were references to martial exploits or martial terms. We do see a few locative names, which means from a place, person from the Mexican Valley. And we see mostly for women relational family names. All right, day names. So these were based on the Tonal Pohuali, a 240-day calendar, which had 13. It had 20 symbols, all meaning different things, and 13 numbers. For instance, this could be 2 reed, 7 earthquake, 1 water, and since I have it here, this is the in my spreadsheet, so you can see all the different cycle names in the Tresenia, the 13 numbers. And so how it would work, from what I understand in Aztec culture, is a few days after you were born, your parents would take you to a temple, and then you would be blessed, and you would be given a name based on the day that you were taken to the temple on. And this was actually could be very powerful. People didn't always reveal their day name. Sometimes people would hide the number part of it and just go by the cycle name. It's there was a lot of complexity behind it, and as always, because of the Spanish, we don't know as much as we should. All right, so first I'm going to go with women's names because they're something of a special case. Most of the ones we see are what I've referred to as relational. They were less a special and unique designation than a kind of a description of where you were, who you were in the family. So you see things like little daughter or middle or someone's sister um, or um, or a little older sister, I assume, like the second born. We do also see descriptive names like Depi, which means tiny, or a fish necklace person. Descriptive names seem fairly common in Nahuatl in general. And of course, most of the Aztec names we have that aren't relational are flower based. You know, Oko, Oko Shochi, tree flower, Maza Shochi, deer flower. Though we do see some other interesting ones like Shilotl means young corn cob. And corn, of course, is and has always been incredibly important in Aztec society. So it is not surprising that it shows up in names. And we also see names that seem to only really be terms to address children by. So if you have any little children running around and you want to call them something something more interesting and more period, we see names like Siwa Quidlapple or Woman's Tale. I assume for a kid that's always just holding on to their mother, or Namiton, Little Spouse, which I thought was kind of strange, but I've known people that call their kids things like Little Mama. I think it's in the same vein. My personal favorites, though, are Amo Mimish, which means he's not a fish. What is he? Not a fish. Or, uh, or a Quinopeia, or which is how did it begin? I think we can all figure out how kids begin, but I did think it was kind of a cute, funny, interesting name. So we do, as I say, see certain names that seem mostly reserved for kids. And I think just to talk a little bit more about Aztec names more generally, we we know that they were given names and that there was often religious significance. It does seem that people picked up different names throughout their lives, or different descriptors at least, which I think is close enough for our purpose. And based on who you were, where you were, what you had done. So just something to keep in mind. Um, there. Now, one thing I wanted to specifically mention are sardonic names, or like insulting names. So when you look at Aztec names, you see things um, like he is forgotten, or he torments himself, or he has no friends, which seems like a horrible thing to call somebody. I mean, who would name anybody he has no friends? A lot of these, though, this is a tradition that shows up in many cultures. I know it shows up in Mongolian culture, for instance, um, where people are given bad names, or unhelpful, even mean-sounding names to ward off bad luck or evil spirits. So, a kid named, he torments himself, hopefully will not be tormented by, any sort of evil spirit. He has no friends. No demon wants to go after someone without friends, I assume. So when you see these kinds of names, that is the rationale behind them. These are names that had special significance in trying to keep people safe. And I've also seen the name Narrow Chile, uh, uh, Chilcanao, which I assume is a sardonic name. If it isn't just a botanical reference, I wasn't sure where else to put that one. And so, just to show what I've done here, I've actually gone through all the names found in the Morelos census, as well as some other names I found, and I've analyzed just the different types of categories that they fall into. For instance, we see a lot of descriptive names, a lot of animal names are very common. Um, trees were a lot less common than animals. We see some names that are based on the weather. So while I just have this living on Google Drive, I have nice lists breaking up the name and the what it means, and kind of what I consider the name to be, though take it with a grain of salt. I'm probably going to change a few of these after putting together the slide deck today. And so just, kind of a tool I put together to help people figure out what kind of Aztec names they want, or if somebody wants to make their own, to figure out, how to put one together. Now, finally, now this is very much a work in progress, but I've also noticed that if you want to, if you attain a rank in this society and you want to have a Nahuatl title, there aren't a lot out there. So I have gone through and I've come up with what I think would be a decent translation for various SCA titles. For instance, crown, for king, it would probably be Tlatoani, which is the ruler of a city, or later on, ruler of the entire Mexica Empire. Um, a Tlatoquepili, or child of a Tlatoani, seems a good translation for prince. High-ranking nobles were Tecutli, count. For peerage, there wasn't really a good term I could find. I couldn't find any good Nahuatl term for like a head artisan or anything like that, or like a master artisan. My suggestion, if I was able to, would be a Kaupuliki, which is a head of a craft guild, but also head of a like a neighborhood council. So, which I think would be a good term for a pelican or a laurel. For a knight, of course, you would want to be an eagle, a jaguar warrior, which is the highest ranking warriors in the Aztec Empire. For Bernie, I went with a Cuatlatoani, or the governor of a city appointed by the Tlatoani, and Pili is a general lower ranking noble, which is a good term for us that just have an AOA. Now, as I've said, all titles are gender neutral. Any of these could refer to a man or a woman, though if it does refer to, sometimes you will see Siwa put in front of or as part of the word to show that we're talking about a woman who is a noble woman, or a woman who is who is a ruler or wife of a ruler. So something to keep in mind, as for anybody who wants to use Aztec name or Aztec titles as part of their SCA persona. All right, so this is everything I've done so far, and I am nowhere near done with this. I want to continue doing the work that I'm doing on Aztec names and designs. So my next steps, watch the space for further information, will be to finish figuring out all the different designs and what they mean, see if I can find more scholarly sources on Chimali usage. Not as much as out there as I would like, and definitely not as much for somebody who is not fluent in Spanish. Find new name sources, and finally there is a census from Tlaxcala in 1591 that has a lot of names in it that has not doesn't look like anybody has ever gone through and analyzed it or broken it up, figure out what it meant, and that is something that I would like to look more into when I get the opportunity. And just some links to help get started. There's a link here as well to my Aztec Heraldry project. Mexico Lore is a good starting point. It's a teaching website that often engages with doctors or experts on various subjects relating to Aztec life. It is a great starting point. And the National Anthropology Museum of Mexico has a lot of good resources too as well. All right, that is part 2. Questions?
I don't have questions, but I was going to suggest that you work with Palimpsest Herald and get your titles on the title list, alternate title list.
I wasn't sure who to actually talk to about that. That would be the Palimpsest Herald?
Yes.
Okay.
So on that, actually, I have also been working on a title list.
Oh, cool.
Myself. My title is in Nahuatl, although I use so you put you had it spelled as Tecutli. So just so you know, that wouldn't be cool because the U doesn't exist in Nahuatl.
Okay.
So it would actually be the KW sound still.
Okay.
So it'd be that Tecutli.
Okay.
And that's actually one of the period spellings, because so I taught the language class, right?
Yeah.
And spelling, like I talk about how spelling was really inconsistent, and so they spelled things multiple ways. So
yeah.
that is one spelling, as well as the way I spell it, where both spellings used in period. But like I've been working on some of this. For example, for peerage, I would actually use Tlamatini. So the Tlamatini were like the people. It means someone who knows something. And in the Aztec Empire, it was a title given by one of the Tlatoani, Nezahualcóyotl. it was meant to denote someone who was like a master artisan or a master philosopher or scholar, what have you, which would be akin to master in our title system.
Okay, well, yeah, I like that better than the one I have right now, than Kapulike, which was kind of the best I could find. So I definitely think that is a better choice for a peer. So cool,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
the one
So
I was
anyways,
like least certain on.
I started working on this and then kind of like burnt out because I was doing it alone and I'm not a herald, so I did
Hmm.
not know what to do. But anyways, yeah, if you ever want to talk about this, I am willing to talk about it and
Cool.
stuff. As um
Yeah, no, I will keep this in mind. I've also been going at this alone, so it's good to know that other people are looking at this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can't help you with the research, but I can definitely point you where to go, or like the people to talk
Hmm.
to, get this stuff registered.
Okay.
Well, not really
Um,
registered, but acknowledged by the society, because we're always looking for, the College of Heralds is always looking for new research.
yeah. And so, like, I kind of reached the point where I had done, I've done all this work, and I wasn't quite sure what to do with it, how to kind of get it out there. So, I mean, if I can get in touch with the like College of Heralds on what to do with it, I'd like to do something, because it's not doing anybody good just sitting in my Google Drive.
And for names information, you can also contact Pelican. Pelican
Okay.
Father of Arms is the person who makes the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, her email, it's pelican at, I think it's pelican at heraldry.sca.org. That's the word.
Okay.
The current Pelican is Elizabetta. She lives in Ontier.
Okay. And like there are like somewhat authoritative, not like list names out there, ones that people generally go off of, and I would like to be able to contribute this to it, because I mean, this is all document, this is all written down. Also, if nobody minds me going in to mention something that I completely forgot to put in, one other thing that you do see in naming conventions later post conquest is people who might have names like 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 Juan Jacui, or Isabella uh, Coashel. So it was very common for people to have both a Nahuatl name and a name. So something I actually kind of alluded to but didn't say, that in the SCA you need two name elements to register a name. One way to do that is to go with a day name and a more descriptive or poetic name. Another way is to go with a Spanish name and a Nahuatl name. There are definitely a lot of ways that you could put a name together to have at least two elements. But yeah, again, I would like this to be useful to people who want to have an Aztec persona, because I mean, I think, as we grow in an organization and we want to attract people, everybody wants to do what their cool ancestors did, and I think bringing in people of Mexican heritage is a great way to do that, and so that is one reason I put this all together.
I will say it's very
Kallinikos.
cool. I like it.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to do all this. It's really great to see it all compiled in this way, and I feel that the SCA is kind of in the what I would consider like the silver age of Mesoamerican personas, and it's growing. And work like this will really push it into what could be considered like the golden age, where you're going to see a humongous amount of growth because this information is available. Like when I was looking to make submit a device or like heraldry or a name, I really had to think about it a lot. And try to figure out how to get the two name system and like all this stuff. It was a lot of fighting and a lot of push, but the work that you're doing really, it really like it's spearheading how easy it's going to be for people to be able to make personas that are Mesoamerican. So I really want to thank you for taking the time to do all that.
Oh, well, I'm glad it's helpful. And also, I want to thank both you and I forget the herald who helped you put your name together, but when I first got the idea to start doing this, I talked with them a little bit, and looking what you two had already done kind of gave me it gave me the perspective like, oh, hey, I can do this. This is doable. The stuff, the FCA will be amenable and the work is out there. So it's a feedback loop. We're all helping each other here.
Yeah, that was Aridana.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, when I first posted in Heraldry Facebook talking about this, she gave me a lot of good places to start.
Yeah, we did some crazy footwork, a lot of research. Not, I mean, I think I still have all the folios and like codices that I use and everything like that. But just the more you learn, the more easily you start iconography and different things.
Oh yeah, and also just one thing to show off that for anybody who needs it. Here is the list to the 17 codices that I used, and each one of these will take you to a full scan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so if you want to look through the entire Florentine Codex, here it is.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Great work.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say thank you, and I'm blown away because I definitely felt very alone trying to do all this work and didn't know where to start. And I'm not saying that I had heralds that were patient and willing to sit down and like sort some stuff out with me, but to the level you have of being able to like put like sources to do it in a style that is representative of Mesoamerican culture still, because it was, even then it was still in European terms. And to see someone like help put this together is, I mean, it's kind of a little overwhelming. It's a little emotional, not gonna lie.
Oh, it means a lot to hear that. Now, I'll be honest. So I actually described every Chimali I found, and by every Chimali I mean every unique design in a book, in European terms. For instance, I'm calling this a Gurges instead of a spiral because that is the heraldic term for a spiral. So we'll still have to get into European heraldry somewhat, but I've made it easy.
I mean, the College of
This
Heralds
is still already. No, go ahead. I was just gonna say this is already like far and above like my own experiences of the subject.
Like I said, the College of Heralds is transitioning with the directive, the new direction of the SCA. They are changing. It's a little bit of a slow thing. It is not because they want to be slow on purpose. It's just because we don't have the research out there. Like a lot of the stuff that we have, all the stuff that we have on articles and whatnot, the fact that you can go to the website and look at list of names, that's all provided by volunteers. So we need volunteers to provide research.
Also, to show what I thought was really cool is we have a few examples of European shields drawn by Aztec artists, and I just think that is super cool. This is a sun on a like conquistador shield from the Codex Azcatitlan. And then there's a few I had on the screen earlier from the Florentine Codex. So some cool stuff out there. Also, they like to put human faces on shields. I'm kind of tempted to register 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth just to see if I can get it past the heralds. And it is completely accurate.
I mean, if it's documentable, I don't see what would be the problem.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, might even be able to do it in a way that doesn't need an IAP. I just don't think anyone's done it yet, so.
I know that it's ended up on shields, but I don't know if it was official.
Fair. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like the sovereigns work very much like lawyers and judges, where they don't make decisions until they have to. So in order to get something a change in the works, you actually have to submit the change. But like, yeah. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
which
please,
just
someone submit
reminds
it.
which reminds me I need to submit my core persona heraldry so I can submit other stuff after it. So that's a good reminder there too. Because like many heralds, I haven't gotten around to doing my own stuff yet out of sheer laziness. Why work on my own when I can, do this?
Just to let you know, we are at 5:20, so we got 10 more minutes left of the class.
Oh, could you go back up?
Yeah.
117, was it 117?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that one. That's pretty good. That's the pattern that we see on a lot of the tilma. What is it? Azure Freddy?
Yeah, so Azure or blue, Freddy is a heraldic speak for that for the crossed lines, and semi of round L's just means it has a bunch of little dots. So that is just how I describe that in heraldic terms. Now, one thing that I need to do that is there's a lot of charges that looking at it, I wasn't sure exactly what it was. Not being an Aztec scholar by any means. So if you look through this and you know exactly what something is,
Well, if you go up,
yeah.
So number 2, that's a cross section of a spondyla shell. It's the symbol for it's usually worn as a necklace by Quetzalcoatl. It could be a symbol of Ehecat, the wind god.
I'll look at the spelling of that later. Okay.
Wind, as in.
Thank you. Hit the wrong key there, but okay, no, that makes sense because I see that symbol fairly common in the codices, and I wasn't sure exactly what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, 5 looks like a symbol. No, it's not. I was gonna say it looks like Kali, like house, but it's not.
Yeah, I was wondering about 4 and 5 if either one of those were a symbol for Kali.
Now everybody's just gonna sit here and listen to us nerd out about this.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm endlessly blown away like how you have these memorized, Asolot. Like I don't know how you do it.
Super focused on iconography. 6 looks like it could be one of those dancers shells. So Tenoch should know what that's called. He should have one. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
There's a couple of names. There's like Kakayolt and then like Ayolt. Give me a second. I'll try to find the more correct one, probably to use.
Number 11 looks like a sun ray. So you'll see it around the sunstone, or commonly called the Aztec calendar. So you'll see these around Tonatiuh, the sun god. They represent like a sun ray.
Okay. Okay, cool. That's actually really neat. And see, I could just bang away in the darkness without knowing what to even look for on a lot of this stuff. So.
Um, 14 might look like a directional motif, but I'm not sure. I wouldn't.
And I would have to check where that one is from. That might be more of an allegorical design than like actually on somebody's shield.
And then 17 actually looks like Atl, so water.
Yeah. I thought that might be, and I have on one of the other shields, so that would make a lot of sense.
If you wanted to, also Atl Tlachinoli is fire water. It's symbolic of war. So you see that on the standard for the Mexican flag. It's depicted as an eagle on the Mexican flag, but if you look on some drums, it's actually fire and water coming out of the eagle's mouth, so it's holding that symbol. Cool. So it was switched on the flag, but Awitzot, that shield with the water beast, that's actually, it has water fire coming out of his mouth. Yeah. It's symbolic of war.
Cool.
Would
I'm trying
flowers
to go
be
through and find the
specified
shells
on
for you
there?
because
I'm
most
sorry,
of the
what?
time I'm trying to go through and find the shells for you because most of the time they're called ayot, but ayot specifically refers to actually a tortoise shell.
Okay.
And so it's more representative of the sound than the actual thing itself. Let me keep hunting that for you.
So what I'm curious about is this design. It's sideways there. You see in other things. But it kind of looks like a voided teardrop. I saw it called a conch shell somewhere, but I'm not sure if that's accurate. Is that something either of you recognize?
No, I don't know what it is. I know that's Nezahualcóyotl's shield.
Mm-hmm.
So I recognize that right off the bat. But there was one that had crossbones. I don't know if you have something written after that one.
I just put that it is a here. Yeah, I just put that it is 2 bones and saltire.
Oh, okay. So you see that a lot in Maya iconography or in other Mesoamerican iconography, and I think this is being held by Mictlantecutli, so the god of the underworld and death.
Mhm.
And you see that in a lot of sacrificial altars or in association with death. So if you wanted some kind of
Yeah.
symbolism attached to that actual crossbones for the Mesoamerican region.
Yeah, no, I think that is great.
All right. Okay. So I have a word for you.
Yes.
It would be ayoyot. So it has an extra I in front of it to differentiate
For
it.
which one?
For the shell one, which one was that one? Do you remember
Number
the number?
6.
Number 6? Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes.
So so that would be spelled Ayoyotl. So with the A at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's the commonly accepted term. There's a few terms for that. That's probably the best one, honestly.
Cool.
You missed my rant on musical instruments and how we don't have a lot of good preservation as far as naming and
I will
goes.
have to go. I will have to catch that whenever you teach it again. I was prepping for this, so sadly I haven't seen any of the other cool classes.
That's fine.
I think it's 13. That looks like a passion flower to me. But I don't know what it would have been, which would have been in South America, but I don't know what it would be called, but that's just what that looks like to me. And that's a flower indigenous to what is now North and South America.
Okay. I think what I should do is I should take these and I should probably add where I found them in my notes, which is all documented. Like for instance, I show every book where a pattern shows up in, and if you go to the list of Chimali, you can find the page numbers. I think I should probably make a list of all of my unidentified charges and put it out there, just so we can crowdsource figuring out what all of these are.
I can also get you in touch with Kyle Taba and one of his grad students that works a lot with Mexica iconography. He has like a massive research project with codices, and they might actually know some of this stuff. So that's at UC Riverside.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the link to this is in the chat. I have the names, the alternate titles, and the heraldry, and the slide deck if you want to go through it. Anyone have any last questions? All right. Well, folks, thank you so much. This is actually my first time teaching a class in the SCA, so I'm glad it went well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for teaching. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you all, and have a great day.
You too.